Today we're going to be going over some super strong, really powerful summer fragrances that will last through an entire day, no questions asked. You don't have to spray these on and then wonder, is this going to make it through the day or is it going to leave me hanging at about noon? That's not the case with these. These all have great performance, no problems there. And that can be sometimes a little bit hard to find in a good summer scent. You know, a lot of times they can be kind of fleeting, gone within a couple hours, but these really stick around. And like usual, we have a pretty good range here as far as price point and different, categories, different types of scents, from a little bit more kind of classy to more young, more playful. And also, these all are designers too. So we're not going crazy on the price point. We've got some that are around 100, some as low as like $30 or so. Let's get things kicked off with Lebo Lelay Parfam. This one's got coconut, pineapple, tonka bean. It's a really popular one for great reason. And I think you guys are aware of the popularity of this one. Although Paradise Garden came out and that kind of took the spotlight for a little bit, there's still no denying that this is one that pretty much everybody knows about, and it still is in pretty high demand. Typically 125 ml for around $120 or so is kind of what you're looking at for this. Not necessarily cheap, but also for the money, you are getting something that is incredibly long lasting, something that smells tropical, summery, playful, easygoing. Now, bear in mind with something like this, it's not really much of a freshie, okay? So it's not your usual style of summer scent. It's much sweeter than that. And some people won't really like that. And I'll be the first to admit, this would not be my first choice for really, really hot days. Like if I was, going out on the lake and it was 85, 90 degrees and sunny, I'm personally not going to be wearing this. I would choose a couple of other things in this video instead. However, this one is really good for those days where, one, it's not, miserably hot, and two, could be a summer evening or just general indoor activities where it's not super hot inside. This would be a great one for that because it has that coconut, pineapple, tropical smell. It's great for the summer season, although it can be a bit too sweet sometimes. But if you play your cards right, it's still one that is pretty easy to wear and utilize in the warmer times of the year. But it does have amazing performance, and with that performance also comes the fact that it can get a bit cloying in really high heat as well. So you kind of have to be careful with it, and you got to balance it out as far as how many sprays you go with. Just a little bit of trial and error with this one can really get you set up nicely. Again, on the playful side of things here, so if you're on the hunt for something more mature, more refined, this one's not really it. We do have a couple options that will be better suited for that later on. But for you younger guys out there especially, I know these Lebo fragrances and these Jean Paul Gaultier fragrances in general are really trendy right now, and this is definitely a great one to consider. Okay, this next one is YSL Elixir. This one's got geranium, lavender, frankincense, and a bit of oud. Surprisingly enough, kind of a weird note to see in this line, and really, I don't pick up on the oud much, okay? I listed all of those because those are all the notes that they give us, okay? And so usually when I'm listing off note breakdowns, I give the ones that are most prominent to me, but when they only give you a handful of them, in this case, I threw them all out there. But also to say that, again, the oud isn't so much a player here at all. I don't get much of it. I do, however, get a lot of the lavender, no surprise. And even a little bit of that frankincense, a tiny bit. Would I consider this to be a smoky scent? No, I wouldn't. It's not to that level, but you get just a hint. And of course, a ton of geranium, giving it that green type of smell that you usually get from a geranium, almost kind of like a mintiness. And that also adds to the overall aromatic smell of the scent as a whole. And I mean, this one is kind of a little bit more controversial, mainly because the price point. It's an elixir, it's a 60 ml, it's $100+, as is most elixirs out there. But a lot of people feel that maybe this one isn't worth that price. And with this hobby and with how it's going and with the prices that everything is at that point, it's just completely subjective, and it's got to be up to the wearer, right? You've got to be the one making that decision. All I can do is present to you, the fragrances and kind of what they smell like and how they last on me. And then everything else is kind of in your hands. What I can tell you is I do get exceptional performance out of this one, especially longevity. Projection is on the weaker side, which I don't mind, but the longevity is great. Now, if you don't want to spend this much, you can get Eau de Parfum Intense would be a great option, great performer. Even the original EDP, a bit sweeter, but still a great option. I do really like this elixir though. And in the beginning, I was a little bit on the fence just because I felt that, maybe there isn't a whole lot different. But the more I have worn it though, the more I have realized that, hey, this is actually a bit better than I thought it would be. The price point is the only downfall really. It's steep, but I am confident that maybe as long as it stays out there, but I'm confident that as time goes on, maybe that price point will come down just a little bit more on discounters. It's never going to be cheap or affordable. All the others are going to be at a better price per milliliter than this one, but at least it might lessen the blow a little bit. Overall, I think it's a really nice release for summer. It has a little bit more of a depth behind it, just a little bit more of a richness and great performance, of course. All right, let's jump into something affordable, right? Those first two were on the pricier end of things. This next one, 100 ml, $32. Okay, it is Dumont Nitro Red. This one's got watermelon, apple, and amber. It smells wonderful. I think it was last year that this one got pretty popular, took off kind of out of nowhere. And, really, Dumont, the brand, was never on my radar as far as fragrances were concerned until this one started popping up. And I was way, way, way late to it. I think it started getting popular like early on in spring, early summer. I didn't get it till September or October, I think is around what it was. I don't know. It was hyped up, sold out. I figured, well, everybody's already talked about it, so there's no need for me to rush out and get it at this moment. And I finally did pick it up later on in the year, and I was impressed with it. Because honestly, going into it, I was thinking, is it really going to be that good? Because I was seeing the comparisons, and people were kind of saying, oh, it's a little bit Invictus Aqua, a little bit Rosassi Hawas. I'm thinking, I've got those already. This probably isn't going to add much to my collection. But honestly, it's quite a bit different than those. So that watermelon in particular is what makes this one stand out. Melon, watermelon, it's not used all that often, at least in men's fragrances. I think watermelon might be used more in like women's perfumes because it does have a sweeter, fruity smell, but it doesn't smell, girly in this by any means. And there aren't many that use it. I think Abercrombie & Fitch First Instinct is one that is pretty popular for using melon. But aside from that and this, I'm struggling to think of a lot of other watermelon-based fragrances. I think Carolina Herrera Chic uses watermelon, but man, I'm drawing a blank on much else than that, at least what I have. And I have to say that note is what makes this one stand out, and it truly makes it delicious smelling. It kind of gives it this fruity gourmand smell. Is it a little bit sweet? It is, and it's not just the watermelon, it's the apple as well, giving it that sweetness. It's almost got this bubbly, fizzy, cola type of texture to it. You've kind of seen that before where it just kind of has this fizziness about it, which I also like about this one. Every time I smell it, I'm like, you know what? I don't care if it's not the most unique thing ever, if it's not something that is just mind-blowing. There's something about this that just checks all the boxes for me. I smell it and I think, you know what? That smells great. I like it. And as I mentioned, about $30 for this, 32, 35, 30, depending on where you're shopping, but somewhere around in the low to mid $30 range for this one. And there is an intensely version. I have not tried it yet. I'm probably going to be late to getting that one too, but I will get it at some point. So who knows? Maybe that'll even be better than this. I'll do a video on it at some point when I do end up getting it, but I'm perfectly happy with this one. It's a great performer too at this low price. For summer, this is a hit. All right, this next one is Invictus Parfum by Rabanne. It's got watery notes, soap, and some lavender in here, some musk as well. It's not really what I was expecting out of an Invictus Parfum, although I don't know, I guess it kind of makes sense a little bit, but at the same time, it doesn't really smell anything like the original Invictus all that much. It doesn't have that bubblegummy sweetness. It's a lot more fresh, a lot more aromatic, a lot more what I would prefer in an Invictus release or Invictus flanker, so it works out good for me, but I think it might catch some people off guard. Some people like that bubblegummy sweetness and that kind of overwhelmingly strong nature that the regular Invictus gives off. That's kind of why it got so popular. But this doesn't really have that. So something to consider. It's fresher, it's more aromatic, it's cleaner, and I find it to be actually a bit more mature, a bit more refined. Now, would I go as far as to call this a mature fragrance? Definitely not. But when you compare it to the original and a few of the other flankers like Legend and stuff, it definitely is much more mature than those. I still love my Invictus Aqua, 2016, 2024, probably the 2025. I'm assuming it's going to smell similar to those. And the Invictus Aqua, line is always going to be my favorite of the Invictus series. And then, of course, after that's going to be, Invictus Victory, Victory Elixir, and so on. But I'll tell you what, this Invictus Parfum has really climbed the ranks, and I do enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. Another great performer, another easy wear scent for the warm weather. Let's go for a blue fragrance up next. We already kind of covered one a little bit with Y Elixir, I guess, but this one is more traditional blue style, but with a twist. It's Polo Deep Blue Parfum. This one's got C notes, mango, and ambroxan. So the mango gives it a bit of a different twist, which I like. And this line is no stranger to that note. They've used it a few different times, even in something like Polo Double Black with coffee. They've got mango in that too. So they like to use that note, I suppose, and I like it. It gives it a bit of a unique twist, kind of like the watermelon note that I was talking about earlier. You don't see it that often, but when you do pick up on it, it makes it stand out. You're looking at somewhere around like $45 to $50 for this one, and this is a 125 ml bottle, so a little bit more bang for your buck there as far as that price per milliliter goes. Seems like these days the bottles are getting smaller and smaller, and the prices are not even staying the same, they're going up, right? Instead of standard 100 ml, now we're getting 90 and even 60, 65, 70 with the elixirs, but not the case here. This was released a few years back, and we get a full 125 out of it. And again, for that price point, it's a really, really good deal, especially because it has great performance. Most blue fragrances do, but there are also some that don't really, especially in the lower price point. But this one does. Does it smell like any one blue fragrance in particular? Not really. It takes kind of a page out of every book as far as a little bit of Dylan Blue, a little bit of Sauvage, maybe a little bit of Bleu de Chanel, not so much Bleu de Chanel though, maybe a little bit of Aqua Atlantique. But ultimately, this is kind of its own creation here, just in a very popular DNA or very popular style. Let's go for another YSL. This one is Myself, Lelay Parfam. So they just released an elixir, of course. Haven't tried it yet. I don't know if it's fully available here in the US, but when it is, I will get it at some point. I do like the Lelay Parfam. I much prefer this over the EDP. I have no reason to even wear the EDP. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that I like this one way better, and this is the one that I would wear. So if you're looking to purchase a Myself, and obviously the newest one, you should try that one too, but I almost would just say don't even bother with the EDP really. If you only want to get one, check out the Lelay Parfam and potentially check out the Elixir when you can. This one's got orange blossom, pepper, and amber, and a nice hint of vanilla. It is a little bit sweet, which I like. And again, nothing wrong with that. Take a look at some of these summer fragrances that are just getting sweeter and sweeter. This one is not as sweet as some of those, but there is a bit of that. But the orange blossom, nice white floral, nice ambroxan, amber wood, amber type of base, kind of giving it that, trendy, modern, fresh type of smell. So it's got kind of all the boxes checked here as far as what you would look for in a summer-based scent. Another great performer. It is a true parfum, so it does last all day. It's another great compliment getter. Everybody's gonna like this stuff. All right, we're gonna finish this video off with L'Eau Dissy Pour Homme Intense by Issey Miyake. This one's got incense, yuzu, and papyrus in here. So the papyrus gives it kind of this slight smoky, spicy kick. The incense, of course, giving it a bit of a smokiness. And then the yuzu, nice bright, fresh note off the opening. That smells amazing. I mean, I love that note. It's very, predominant within the L'Eau Dissy lineup, but outside of this fragrance line and this brand, you don't see that one used a lot either. So that's yet another note that kind of stands out just because it's not used a ton. It's not like bergamot or apple or something where you see it all the time. So those aspects there, the smokes with some of that citrus, really make this one stand out. not only does it stand out and be kind of unique, it also is a great performer too. That's why it's in this video. You know, this is only an eau de toilette concentration, so it's you know, kind of bottom of the barrel there. However, it is still a great performer. I do really like it. Definitely recommend checking this out if you want something that's unique and still plenty long lasting for summertime. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some summer fragrances that last all day long. You don't have to worry about these. I will link them all down below, but that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.